Okay, so it is 11:31 and we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the third webinar in our fall webinar series. A few housekeeping items before we begin. You are all muted and will be throughout the entire webinar. At the end, if there's time, you can chat in questions through the question and answer or Q&A widget in your webinar controls. Even if I don't have time to answer the questions at the end of the webinar, we will provide written responses to any questions we receive when we send out the slide deck to everyone. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Alana Krober, and I'm the Director of Information Services here at 211 Connecticut. And during this webinar, I'll be showing you how to use all of the 211 Connecticut tools to find resources and information relevant to folks who are returning to the community after incarceration. Okay. So first, a little background about 211 and how to connect with us for anyone who may not be familiar. 211 is a national toll-free 3-digit dialing code, similar to 911, that was designated by the FCC to give individuals a place to call for information and referral to community resources that can help with basic needs, employment, education, healthcare, and much more. There are over 200 independently operated 211s across the country. And here in Connecticut, we have one 211 center that serves the entire state. Our call center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And individuals in need or professionals who are trying to help them can connect with us in several ways. The first way is by phone, simply by dialing 211 from any phone in Connecticut and listening to the menu options. If the caller is in crisis, they should press option 1 to be quickly connected to a crisis intervention specialist. Secondly, for individuals who prefer not to call but may still want that one-on-one assistance, they can use the chat feature on our website to get help from one of our contact specialists. And lastly, individuals can use our website and its many self-service tools to find resources. Our resource department here at 211 Connecticut maintains the most comprehensive database of community resources in the state, with over 40,000 programs and services that get continually maintained and updated by our resource specialists. And that database is publicly available on our website, 211ct.org, for anyone to search. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into how to use the 211ct.org website and its various features and tools to connect returning citizens with important information and community supports. So here at our 211 Contact Center, we receive thousands of calls each year from individuals who were recently released from incarceration or from their family members or friends or case managers who are trying to help them. And so here are some of the common things that we hear on these calls. So where can I get food, a meal, or clothing? These are calls that we get from folks who may have sort of immediate basic needs for food, clothing, those sorts of things. I have no one I can stay with and need shelter. So these are calls that we're getting related to housing. Some individuals may have a need for immediate shelter. Others may need just housing assistance. So a lot of times what we hear from folks is that they may have thought that they could stay with family or friends after discharge, only to be discharged and then learn that they can't. Can I get a job if I've been incarcerated? So job finding assistance, right? This is a common request that we hear in our contact center. I need to see a doctor and I have no health insurance. So sometimes these calls are from individuals who may have a physical health need. They may need a medication, but they may also need to see a mental health professional, or they may need substance use disorder treatment. How can I get my driver's license and social security card back? So we know that documentation, so this whole issue of documentation can often be a barrier for returning citizens in terms of accessing benefits, public benefits and programs. Where can I apply for state benefits? So getting supports, right, like SNAP and health insurance is often really important for individuals while they get resettled and find employment. What do I do about my debt and loans that went unpaid while I was in prison? This can also be a significant issue for returning citizens. And lastly, where can I meet with someone who can help me figure all of this out? And so this is really the big one because we know that case management is often such an essential component of successful reentry, and so connection to those programs where they're available is really critical. Okay, so I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so describing the various resources on the 211ct.org website and try and discuss each one kind of in the context of how you might use it to answer one or more of the questions or needs that are currently on this slide. Okay, so the first tool, and probably the most obvious, is the keyword search on the 211ct.org homepage. So it's sort of prominently featured on the homepage, and it's an easy way for anyone, so clients, family members, discharge planners, social workers, case managers, to find resources to meet a need by typing in a word or short phrase that describes the need, or by typing in the name of a program or agency. Then just entering a zip code or a town or address and hitting search. So if we use the example of the returning citizen who's requesting a meal or clothing or other basic needs, we would want to search for the terms that I have listed down below here in that keyword search. So for example, we would want to, go back. For example, we would want to search the term soup kitchens if we were looking to connect an individual with a meal. We would want to search the term food pantries to find programs for grocery items, general clothing provision for programs that provide free or low-cost clothing, homeless drop-in centers for sort of temporary shelter, sometimes a meal or other essentials like showers, and discounted telephone service for those programs that can provide free or discounted cell phones and minutes, which is often, an essential need for folks as well. Okay. The second tool is the reentry category page that we have on our website, which can be accessed from an icon on our homepage or directly at the link I have listed on the slide, uwc.211ct.org/reentry. And this page is really intended to be a jumping off point for returning citizens, where we've compiled links to the resources that are most relevant to this population. So this is not an exhaustive list of all services, but it hopefully reflects the top needs of individuals recently released. So if we use the example of the individual who needs shelter or housing assistance from the previous slide, we can see that we could use this page to begin to find that sort of help. So in the bottom left, right here under housing and homeless shelters, we see guidance that anyone in immediate need of shelter should dial 211. And this is because, as probably many of you know, access to shelter in Connecticut is now done through the Coordinated Access System and in a coordinated way, with 211 being the front door or entry point to that system. So we refer callers to housing options when they call here, and when appropriate, schedule them for a coordinated access network or CAN appointment with a housing specialist who does an assessment and then works to secure either a shelter placement or other housing solution for the individual. We frequently receive calls from Department of Correction or DOC counselors with individuals who will be released without a place to go and are in need of shelter. We go ahead and we complete intakes with those individuals in need over the phone, and we work with DOC to schedule them for their CAN appointment on the day of their release when possible. Also down here in that bottom left housing section, we have links to make it easy to locate other shelter and housing options like homeless drop-in centers, halfway houses, although many of those do require a referral through DOC, sober living homes, subsidized housing, as well as organizations and websites that help people search for available housing. In the earlier slide of the frequent calls for help that we get from this population, there was also the example of the individual who was worried about getting a job. And you'll see that on this page, we have also included links to programs that assist with job finding. So here in the middle under unemployment and training, as well as programs that provide additional job training, so these job training formats, as well as links to a whole variety of other resources, including some of the basic needs ones we talked about a moment ago with the keyword search, and some other ones that we'll continue to talk about as we go on. Okay, so moving on to the third tool we want to highlight, which is our Elibrary, or electronic library of 400 white papers that are written and maintained by our resource department. So the Elibrary contains papers on a whole variety of topics and can be searched by keyword or browsed by category. So on the left hand side of the slide here, you'll see some of the categories of papers in the Elibrary, including a reentry category. And on the right, you'll see the titles of some of the papers included in that reentry category. So birth certificates, driver's license, finding free clothing, voting rights, etc. And if we think back to the example of the caller who wanted to know how to retrieve his ID after being released, we can see that the Elibrary can be a great resource for that kind of information. So in fact, thanks to some good information that we recently received from DOC, we have a new Elibrary paper, this one down here, on how individuals can retrieve their documents from DOC if they weren't provided at release. And so all of these Elibrary papers are intentionally short and can be downloaded, saved, or printed as PDFs. Okay, so number 4, regional directories. So in different regions of the state, there is great local work happening in the regional reentry initiatives. And folks around the table in these initiatives have recognized that while the statewide electronic resources are great, some individuals still have a need for paper listings, and specifically paper guides that are local. So thus the creation of several regional reentry directories that you see here on the slide. And on our reentry page that we looked at a few moments ago, we have links to these directories for Bridgeport, Greater Hartford, Waterbury, New Haven, and Windham County. And some of these guides were created by the reentry collaboratives themselves, and some were created by us here at 211 at the request of the reentry groups. The directories we created are updated a couple times a year to keep them current. And they provide a whole bunch of really great information about local resources and how to access statewide programs as well. So in our earlier example of the caller who needed to see a doctor, these directories could be a really great resource. They provide the local listings for the local community clinics, for dental care, mental health, substance use treatment, as well as other basic needs. And they can be viewed electronically or, like I said, they can be printed out as hard copies for those that need that hard copy version. Okay, so the fifth and final web tool we want to highlight is the 211 Benefits Navigator, which can be accessed at 211navigator.org. And this is a great tool for help seekers to complete themselves or for professionals to complete on behalf of a client. In the earlier example of the caller who wants to know what state benefits to apply for, this is a really great resource. The individual simply has to complete the anonymous questionnaire. It typically takes less than 2 minutes to complete. And then the Benefits Navigator screens them for potential eligibility for 23 state and federal programs. So the programs you see listed here on the slide are those 23 programs. By no means does this tool determine eligibility, but it can give somebody a pretty good sense of whether they might be eligible for the program and whether it's worth their time to pursue the application process. For each program that it returns that somebody might be eligible for, they can go ahead and click on the link. So if it's food stamps or Care for Kids, and when they click on that link, they'll get a little bit more information about the program, a link to additional information, and then the link to the online application, if there is one, to begin the application process. So kind of a nice seamless transition to actually starting the application for some of these programs. Okay, so now that we've run through how to find some of the important reentry resources using the various tools on the 211 website, I want to go to the website now and do a quick demo example so you can all have a better sense of kind of what it actually looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the website now. Okay, so the web address again is 211ct.org. And when I come here to the home page, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm logged into my 211 account. And so if I look up here in the top right-hand corner, I can see it says my 211 account, which means that I am logged in. If I wasn't logged in, I'll go ahead and log out. It would look like this, right? So with an option to log in, or if I didn't have an account yet, to sign up. If you don't have a My 211 account, it's free. All that's required to sign up is an email address and password. And I would encourage everyone to sign up for the free account because it allows you to create sort of customized lists of resources for clients or by geographic region and to save them and share them. So I'm going to go ahead and log back into my account. So like I said, it's super simple, just an email address and password. Log in. Okay, and so I'm back logged into my account. Now I just want to go ahead and give you a quick peek of the whole home page so you can see kind of all the tools that we just discussed. That keyword search we talked about, of course, is right here, sort of prominently placed on the home page. If we scroll down a little, we're going to come here and see sort of all of the category pages we have that allow users to browse some of the services in the database by category. That reentry one we talked about is right here, right? So if I go ahead and click on that, it's going to take us to that reentry landing page, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. The Elibrary that we talked about can be accessed up here in the top navigation. You'll see there's a link right here to Elibrary. Again, you can search by keyword or you can browse by category. We can go ahead and click on the reentry category to view the links to the various papers that we talked about there. If we click on the voting rights one, you'll see again that the papers, like I said, are intentionally brief. They're short. They're designed to give an overview. And then you have the option right here to download it, to save it, or print it out as a PDF. And then lastly, if we scroll down further on the home page, we will see some links towards the bottom here. So we'll see the link here to the 211 Benefits Navigator. And so this is the Benefits Navigator we just talked about that screens for the 23 programs. You click on it, and like I said, it takes less than 2 minutes to complete, and you get the list of programs back that you may qualify for. Also down towards the bottom of the home page is a link to our community events calendar. We didn't highlight this tool, but I do want to just point it out quickly because we list community events happening around the state that are free and open to the public. And these events are often employment related. We list job fairs, resume writing, health fairs, interview strategies. So this is also a great place to come and look for free events that may be helpful to clients that you're working with. Okay, And then also a link here to the site that lists if there are any Section 8 waiting list openings. So that might be another helpful resource. Okay, so we're going to come back up and we are going to go back to this reentry landing page, this category page, because I do think it's a great place to start. So let's go ahead and go there and start to kind of run through a quick example of how we could put together a customized list of resources for a returning citizen. So you'll see we have links to several categories of resources. We have links to Elibrary papers, and we have the links to all of those reentry directories that we spoke about a moment ago. Down here we have links to directories that have been put together specifically for families that have loved ones in prison, link to the benefits navigator, to DSS, to the Elibrary paper. So kind of all of those things are on this one page. So that's why it's a nice starting place. So if I was working with a client, the first thing I might want to do is see if there are any specific programs in the area that work with individuals, specifically individuals who were recently released from incarceration. So to do that, I would use this link here, the ex-offender reentry programs. If I click on that, you'll see that I'm going to get a statewide list of programs, but I'm going to be prompted here to enter a location to get a more specific, narrow list of programs in my area. So we will pretend that the client we're working with lives at, let's see, 199 Main Street in Danbury, and we'll go ahead and click search. And so we are getting back 17 programs, ex-offender reentry programs for somebody that lives at this address. We could go ahead and filter our list of results. So if we're working with a client that we know has limited means of transportation, we might want to go ahead and filter this by radius. So we might want to only look for programs within 5 miles of where this person resides. And we could go ahead and click filter. And now we have 2 programs within 5 miles of where this person is staying, right? So we have an ex-offender reentry workshop that's offered by the American Job Centers that focuses on job finding assistance. And to look at the details for any of these, we just click on more details. We get all of the details, phone, fax numbers, hours, application process. And then we also have a program here that's offered by Community Solutions, which if we are working with a male ages 18 plus, that was not convicted of a sex offense or arson, this might be a good program for that individual. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to build up a list of resources for my pretend client. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one to a list. If I already had a list started, I could add it to an existing list, or I can start a new list now. So if I'm working with Jane Johnson, I might want to put Jane J's list of resources, and I can create my list. Right. And then I might want to go back now to this landing page, to this jumping off point, and I might want to look for some other resources for her as well. So she may need clothing, so I could go ahead and click on general clothing. We could take a look at the resources there. Again, I'm going to enter her street address to get the best list of resources for her. She might also need food, so maybe I'll add some food resources, some food pantries to my search. And in case she needs meals, I might want to add some soup kitchens to my search results. I can go ahead again and filter this down by 5 miles if I know she's going to struggle with transportation. Right, and now I have 11 clothing and food resources within 5 miles of where my client is residing. And I could review them. I could add ones that I think are particularly helpful to her list. Or if I want to add all 11 of these to her list at once, I can click on Add Page Results to List, select Jane's list, Add to List, and now I've added all 11 resources to her list. So if I want to go ahead and share this list with Jane, with my colleague, with myself, I can go ahead and come up here to my 2-in-1 account. go to resource lists. I'm going to go ahead and find her list and click on share list. I could open it up to look at it, or I can click here and share it. I could email it. I could email it to Jane. I could email it to myself. I could email it to another caseworker with some optional notes, right? I can put in some notes into that email. I could text it to myself or to the client, or I can click here on copy link and grab a shareable URL that I could put in a document or put in another email. So lots of ways to then share these customized lists of resources that you put together. Okay, so we are almost at time. So I'm going to just jump back to our PowerPoint here for a second. And I could continue to show you the website really for another hour. And you can do sort of the same thing that we just did from the reentry page if you started at the keyword search instead. It's just that the reentry page gives you some ideas of what to search if you aren't sure what to search from that keyword search. Okay, so we're running out of time though, so I just quickly want to wrap up with a few takeaways. So kind of just to summarize what we just talked about, really sort of the different ways to use 2-in-1 to find information and resources for individuals. You can always dial us 24/7, 365. If you're using the website, a great place to get started is that reentry category page that we just looked at, and I have the link there. Or by browsing the 2-in-1 Elibrary for helpful papers, and I have the link there to that specific category of papers related to reentry. You can use the keyword search on the home page to find reentry programs, basic need programs, subsidized housing, healthcare, employment resources, and many more. You can use the 2-in-1 Benefits Navigator for a list of public benefits that an individual may qualify for. And you can use the My 2-in-1 account to create, save, and share customized lists of resources, either for specific clients or specific categories of resources in various geographic regions of the state. Additionally, a couple other things. If you haven't signed up yet for our 2-in-1 Data Glance monthly newsletter, I would encourage you to do so. I have the link below. Every month we send out a short newsletter that just lists the new programs that we added to the database during the previous month. So it's a nice way to stay up to date on new things in your community. If you are a provider and you aren't listed in the 2-in-1 database, or maybe you have a program that's not listed in our database, please complete the electronic intake form on our professionals page, or you can contact us directly at info@ctunitedway.org or at 860-571-6059. And if your organization is listed in the 2-in-1 database, please help us keep the programs and the resources up to date by reviewing your listing and submitting any changes or updates to our resource department. You can do that online using the form at the link at the bottom of the slide, or again by contacting us by email or phone. Okay, so we are at noon, so I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar now because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A widget in your webinar controls now. I will leave that Q&A widget open for another minute or so, and that way we can provide written responses shortly when we send out the slide deck. So thanks everyone so much for tuning in today, and have a great afternoon.